Yo, what's going on guys? It's Cryptic TMG back with a brand new video. Today we're going to be talking about the BOP on Le Mans Ultimate, or should I say the fixed setups on Le Mans Ultimate. Either or, I believe there's definitely some work to do to maximize that and make it as good as possible, especially with the fact that we have so many ranked races and, you know, not having the cars balanced in fixed setup is a little bit of a problem. But anyway guys, let's get stuck into the video. Now, as you guys know, if you're running in the GT3s, the likelihood is you're probably going to see 90% of the lobby in a BMW. If you're running the GTEs, you're probably going to be seeing 90% of people in the Porsche, and that's just how it is at the moment. Unfortunately, for me personally, I do believe things need to be improved in terms of the fixed setups. I believe some of the fixed setups are just not that appealing in some of the other cars. Now, for instance, the other day I took the McLaren around Monza, and what I realized is the McLaren was pretty much on max wing for Monza with no first chicane, while cars like the BMW had zero wing, and it was just like, bro, it's impossible to be able to compete. You know, little things like that which are definitely going to deter people from using the McLaren in fixed, because it's impossible to get anywhere near the other cars because you're so much slower down the straight. Yes, you might brake a little bit later in the braking zones, but you're never going to make up the time that you gain or the time that you lose going down the straights. And yeah, for me as well, a lot of the time when people think, okay, more downforce automatically means you can carry more speed through the Lesmos, but that's not really how LMU works. You know, just sticking on more downforce just gives you more understeer, so it doubly affects how your car handles because it's over safe, and then you can't turn the car, can't carry any speed for the Lesmos, and it's all just cost you time. And for me, things like that, those are the things that need to be looked at. Those are the things that need to be changed. Now, the reason why it's very hard to link it to BOP is because when you actually open up the setups, the McLaren's a great car, the Ferrari's a great car, but a lot of the time you don't get to see that because we're always doing fixed races. And I personally believe maybe the BOP isn't that bad. It's just that some of the fixed setups are, you know, I can't call them bad. I just feel like the BMW's fixed setup is just so much better that it sort of, you know, it sort of nullifies anything you do in the other cars. Now, to me, I believe the community should work on some default fixed setups for the other cars, something that's got a decent balance. It doesn't have to be like super low downforce or have any great advantage over the other cars, but something that is definitely a lot friendlier to drive, something that turns more, and then therefore I feel like you'll get more variety on the grid. Because the issue is when we're doing these ranked races, you know, people are literally just going to jump in whatever car is the fastest. Now, if you are, let's say, if you're ranked third in the lobby and you're expected to finish third, but you don't feel like driving the OP car, and then you take another car that is definitely slower on fixed, but you get like a decent result, you come home in like fifth position, you know, the driver rating doesn't actually show that, you know, finishing in fifth in a car that is nowhere near the speed of like the BMW, for instance, on fixed, that is actually a good result, but your driver rating won't show that. It will only show that, you know, you finished behind the position that you were supposed to. So it's not accounting for the difference in the cars, and that's where I find the problem. You know, sometimes, let's say if you decide to pick a Corvette and go around the Le Mans, and then, you know, you're just up against a load of BMWs, but you're ranked number one in the lobby, but you bring it home in fourth, which is still a credible result considering the disparity between the cars there. Your driver rating is not going to show that you actually drove your socks off in that race. And that's where I feel like a lot of the problem is. A lot of people don't really get to experience open setup races, so, you know, their perception is that the BMW is the best car. If you're in the GTEs, the Porsche is the best car, and that's it, because most of the time there's not open setups for people to actually get to find out all the nuances between the cars. So that's why I believe it's not that much of a bot problem. We know once you open up the setups, you can achieve great lap times with pretty much all of the cars. You just have to work really hard on, you know, building a very, very good setup. And, you know, I just feel like maybe it's time that we actually work on these fixed setups, because it's been pretty much since the beginning of the game, since the game came out, that the Porsche in the GTEs has been insane. I think right at the beginning the Ferrari was a bit quicker, but other than that, the Porsche is just crazy. Most of the time, you're not going to be able to compete. The Ferrari's got worse tire wear. It's not as good on the brakes. So naturally, there's just not much you can do when you're going up against people in a Porsche. But sometimes you don't want to drive the OP car. You don't want it to be a whole field with the exact same car, you know? And especially in the GTEs, in the GT3, sorry, we've got loads of choices of cars now, but the Aston Martin default setup is just not good. The McLaren default setup is not great. You have to do a lot. I mean, you have to go down very low on your TC settings just to be able to compete. And even that is extremely hard work. You have to be very good to get the McLaren to work on fixed. The Ferrari, extremely edgy on fixed. Again, you have to be pretty good. The Corvette, most of the time, is not even an option. And yeah, that's the problem. Like, the Aston just completely doesn't turn. The Mustang's pretty similar, doesn't turn that much. Has to be specific tracks for those cars to be able to be towards the front. And then you have the BMW, which the fixed setup in the BMW is probably as close as you're going to get to an actual setup on open, which is why the BMW always feels good. Apart from maybe Brazil, what I can think of, the car's slow at Brazil, but it still doesn't feel bad to drive. And that's where I feel like a lot of the time comes in with it. Some of the other cars, they don't feel that intuitive to drive. So it's a bit more like, oh no, I'll just stick to the BMW. Even if it's slow at Brazil, at least it still feels okay, you know? I think the Porsche is pretty good on fixed. Again, you know, you probably have to be of a decent level to be able to be, you know, right at the front with the Porsche, because it can get a little bit snappy. But with the BMW being very stable, it's got a good front end, can sort of brake late into corners to get the nose in. It's just a no-brainer for people to pick. Like, if you're, you know, new to LMU and you wanting to know what GT3 to jump in straight away for these daily races, everyone's going to tell you, just pick the BMW, you know? And that's just what it is, man. I feel like the difference in the GTEs, why it is a problem, but probably not as much as a problem, because, you know, with no ABS, you still have that skill factor where, you know, if you're really good, you're really consistent, you don't make mistakes, you can still get decent results in the car that is not always the fastest. Whereas in the GT3s, bro, a lot of people they're just smashing their ABS. So, you know, you're not really gonna make a mistake most of the time, you know. So that's the problem, man. Like, I personally think all the fixed setups, particularly after the new tire model in the GT3s, all the fixed setups should be reworked. Either we put them all in line, so that might be getting some of the top guys in the game, some of the esports drivers, get them to do a lap time in the BMW, because I believe that is the benchmark in fixed. And then with all the other cars, you need to at least be able to get within 2 tenths, and then let them tinker with the setups until they find something that is balanced enough that gets them in that 2 tenth window, and then leave it. I'm not saying create a whole brand new setup that's like a race setup, because of course you're gonna find way more time, but just little changes here and there that's just gonna help find a little bit more time, get it closer to the BMW, get it a little bit more stable around the racetracks. And I believe that can work, man. I think that should be the next step. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. What's your experience in the fixed races? Are you tired of seeing the same cars used over and over again, while you and maybe 2 other people have decided to take something a little bit different, and it always seems to cost you positions and lap time? Anyway, guys, it's Cryptic TMG. Like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell to catch my videos first. And peace.